Hello, my name is Susan O'Connor and I'm from the Scottish Civic Trust. Today we're joined by David Paton, who's representing Montrose Playhouse, who's going to talk to us a bit about his project, which was shortlisted this year for the My Place Awards. You're very welcome, David, and thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Susan.
We're going to start just off, if you can give me a little bit of maybe a condensed history of the building itself and perhaps how you got involved in it.
Yeah, sure. So the building itself was originally built as a swimming pool back in 1962, I think, by Angus Council. And for many decades, it was a very popular facility in the town. Unfortunately, I think it was late 2000s, it closed down and the council built a new facility next to the sports centre. So the building was sitting there empty for several years, just sort of deteriorating. And me, in my infinite wisdom, decided it would be a fantastic idea to try and do something with it. So I'm an architect by trade, so I'd done some designs to turn it into a cinema. Long story short, we got a group of locals together to help us try and push the project forward as a steering group. We formed a charity, and then 9 years later, we opened the Playhouse, which is a 3-screen cinema and art centre with cafe bar, a community space, retail space, car park and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of stuff in between, but that's a quick history of the building and where we are today.
Very impressive. And how did you establish that a cinema would be a good use for the building?
So for many years, I've always wanted a cinema in the town. I've always thought it could really benefit the town because we're kind of stuck right in between Aberdeen and Dundee and Montrose. So we've got a 40-minute drive north and south of the big cities to get to our nearest cinema. And Montrose used to have 3 cinemas back in its heyday. So I've always thought it was a perfect location. And when we started looking into it, within 15 miles of Montrose, we've got a catchment of around 70,000 people within all the towns and villages round about us. So it was kind of a no-brainer in that respect. And then we actually started the project as a formalised charity. We employed a cinema consultant who'd actually looked into Angus for having a full-time cinema. So he already had done some background for the project anyway. So the feasibility was a no-brainer for him as well. So yeah.
So no-brainer all around. And was it a no-brainer for funders as well? Did you find it reasonably easy to put the package together, or was it difficult?
It was one of the most challenging things I've probably ever done. We found it very much chicken and the egg situation. So we couldn't get funding without funding, and we couldn't get any very far with funders until we had certain elements of the project kind of completed. So during 2018, I think it was, we appealed to the community and put together a DIY SOS style event where we got 70 or 80 people from the local community, retired people who were looking for things to do, and also businesses in the town, big businesses as well. And we stripped the building back to its bare bones effectively and saved ourselves about 6 months worth of time and about £250,000 on man hours. So yeah, that was a huge aspect of the project.
You must have been fairly sure that there was no asbestos to get the community involved in doing your strip out then.
There was, so we had an asbestos register, and there was quite a lot of asbestos in the pool hall ceiling. Thankfully, it was too high for our volunteers to get near, and that was actually removed by the professionals once we actually got funding in place. So yeah, after we sort of made the case for it, we showed that the community was really up for it. We done a lot of background monthly screenings in some of the church halls and stuff in Montrose with a group of an independent cinema group who do touring cinema, indie cinema group, who are now our operator at this Playhouse as well. And we built that case for our funders, and eventually we got our big breakthrough in 2019, I think it was, with our 2.56 million from the Scottish Government's Regeneration Capital Grant Fund.
I know that's been a big support for a lot of large-scale capital projects recently, which is great. I think it's a really interesting model to get locals involved in doing your strip out and local businesses as well, because it's a great way to engage people who wouldn't necessarily think of themselves as heritage people, but would think of themselves as being very active. Has there been a sort of a follow through from that in terms of your volunteer base?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, from the strip out at an early stage, we had we had a group of around 12 people who, even after the events took place with the strip out and the rest of the teams, we had people actually coming in weekly off their own back to come and help out. We also had big companies like GlaxoSmithKline, who are a big pharmaceutical company in the town, and a lot of the oil companies who are based in Montrose as well, helping out where they could out with the DIY SOS. And they're now either sponsors or they're actively part of the playhouse in some sort of reward scheme for their employees, etc. So it's certainly had a knock-on effect to get them involved at that early stage, and it's been good to kind of get them involved at that stage, because it's helped us kind of boost things as well.
So would you encourage other groups to think about doing some sort of a nuts and bolts project? I think lots of groups are quite keen on doing digitally based projects at the moment, but I think there's no real comparison for doing something actual physical that involves the building itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, it was absolutely fantastic to see during the sort of break times we had with everyone. We set up a little canteen in the old gym, and it was great to see all these people interacting, where, you know, they maybe hadn't seen each other for a few years and they'd come together again. So it was a really community spirited effort, and we've catalogued that quite well, and we've got a lot of photos and videos from that event, and we genuinely think that was the catalyst for us getting that, you know, the rest of our funding in place. It was a fantastic event.
I would say it probably was. And would you say that's had a knock-on impact on the kind of audiences you're getting now, because people feel like they've been involved with it at every stage?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on in the building. You know, we don't pretend that it was never a swimming pool. It's very obvious that it's a swimming pool, and there's a lot of people in the town who remember spending a lot of time there when in their youth. So we've got the old diving boards, which are now upholstered, and they're now benches that you sit on before you go and watch their film and stuff. And these people have also purchased things in the building. So we've got a wall of fame, we've got bricks that are engraved with people's names, and that's like a thank you to them for helping out so much. So they are now ingrained into the building, and you can see them actually coming in quite a lot to spend time with their families, bring their grandkids or whoever. And yeah, it was a huge boost to us having these people kind of, you know, fighting our corner in some respects to kind of make it happen.
What an impact that must have been for the local community. Would you say that's the biggest impact you've had, is sort of in terms of community pride and engagement locally?
I would say so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people couldn't help, but then they're the ones that have maybe purchased one of our bricks, and that was their involvement as well. But I mean, we made over £200,000 locally from sponsorships, selling bricks, selling seats, selling space on the Wall of Fame and stuff like that. I mean, £200,000 in a town of 13,000. It's a lot of money. And I think that just is testament to the fact that we managed to create this, you know, exciting prospect for the town that is now real, and people bought into it because they've seen it actually happening during the DIY SOS and further on.
I think what you're saying is really interesting about creating different levels for people to engage with, because of course not everybody can be there on site, not everybody is suited for physical labour, but there are other ways to contribute financially, or through doing stuff online for you, or just by spreading the words, coffee mornings, that kind of thing as well. And I think people kind of often can get stuck in thinking that there's one way to contribute. It's potentially quite useful to have a spreadsheet that sort of offers a smorgasbord of ways for people to get involved.
100%, yeah, absolutely agree. We had various levels within our sort of reward-based crowdfunding, and some of it was people just dropping things off at the Playhouse for refreshments. You know, the local sandwich shop across the road brought sandwiches in for everyone. You know, it's as simple as that, and that's really quite exciting to see. People doing that as well. It's
a whole community project then, which is fantastic. So, is there anything next for the project? Is it just to see out what you've planned, or have you got any new grant schemes in the woodworks? Yeah,
so we're heavily involved with the community still, and we are constantly developing our social programs. Our operator, Indie Cinema Group, are often saying that they're really impressed at how many social programs we do in the cinema, whether it's dementia screenings or autism or subtitled screenings at appropriate times where people can actually manage to come and see films, things like that. So we've got a dedicated social development officer, Caroline Farquhar, who works with us, and she's now constantly developing those ideas and working with different groups in the community to see what other screenings we can bring in to kind of benefit people. You know, there's a lot of issues just now with people living with mental health, social isolation, and especially the last 2 years with the COVID lockdowns. So we'd like to address them in our next steps, but also we're really looking forward to working with some professionals in the film industry who live locally to do some sort of big film festival in the coming year. That would be quite an exciting prospect for us. And the people on board have kind of tested it out a little bit this year with a small film festival over a weekend, and it was really well received. So we're hopeful that that will take off, and that's our sort of next big plan.
What an amazing plan you have, and how amazing to be creating a community hub out of what was formerly a derelict swimming pool. That's an incredible achievement. You must be very, very proud.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a fantastic building. I mean, it's I love spending time there. I'm there probably 2 or 3 times a week just now, not just to watch a film. I'm just there to kind of spend time. And, you know, we've got a fantastic cafe bar. We've just launched a new cocktail menu and new food menu, just because we had a few months of just finding our feet almost. So now everything's kind of, you know, really taken off. And this past 2 weeks with the school holidays, it's been incredible. I mean, our targets for admissions to the cinema for year 1 were sitting at 70,000, I think, and we're already 6 months in, and we're already up about 50,000 people. So it really shows the drive and the passion people have for this type of facility, especially in a small town. And I think it's so sad that, you know, 30, 40 years ago, a lot of towns in Scotland lost their cinemas to the big multiplexes. But now we're really seeing that sort of change over, and people are expecting, you know, the smaller independent cinemas kind of creeping back. You've got like Campbelltown Picture House, which opened a few years ago, the Burke Cinema in Aberfeldy, the Morel in Shetland, Thurso Cinema. All these little cinemas are fantastic, and it's great to see so many people using them again. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the multiplexes, but, you know, when it's something that's community based, it's run by the community, and everything invested back into the community from there, it has to be better than that, you know, a conglomerate kind of stealing all the capital from communities around about Scotland. So yeah.
And also you can provide a kind of a social aspect which the large conglomerates would never even consider. So that makes it hugely, hugely valuable, quite apart from saving an important local building as well.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Enormous congratulations on the project. Best of luck with the awards, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Susan.